is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WVAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
There's a really good chance. I think we're probably in a much better position now than at any time during the negotiation. That's something meaningful. And I don't think you could have gotten here without having to go through this process. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're probably in a stronger position now to do a deal, a fair deal for everybody.
All right. You've been listening all day to Trump say we were close to a deal, we got a deal. And I know many of you, by virtue of your emails, Rick, what's up with the China tariffs? Is it really bad for the farmers? Democrats say it's going to throw us into a black hole economically. Well, I couldn't think of anybody else. I've known this guy for, 20 years? He's the director of policy director with America First Policies. His name is Curtis Ellis. You've seen him on Fox and many different places on television. This guy has forgotten the last 15 minutes more about the China situation and tariffs than I've ever known. Pleased to have with us in the court of public opinion, Curtis Ellis. Curtis, how you doing?
It's great to be here with you, Rick. This is a great day in America. We're finally standing up to China.
All right. Now, this is what I'd love to do. And I know that you're used to dealing with the intricacies and so on. Let's give a thumbnail sketch of where we are right now, where Trump has brought this country with China.
Yeah, thank you. Let's get to the big picture, because that's what's been lost by all the talking heads on TV. We are in a struggle for the future of our country. China wants to take over the world. When they take over the world, you're going to be working for the Chinese Communist Party. America, they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? In China, they say, we're going to tell you what you're going to do. So what kind of future do you want to have for your kids? It's that simple. Now, they're not going to send over missiles and bombs and nuclear weapons. They aim to take over the world by getting rid of us, weakening us economically. And that's what this whole deal is about with the tariffs. They've been robbing our industries, underselling us to drive our businesses into bankruptcy. And every other president before Donald J. Trump has let them get away with it. This president says, no more. I'm not going to do it. If I can't get a good deal from these people to stop cheating, I will get no deal at all, and we will sweat them out. That's what's going on, Rick.
Well, of course, the Democrats, I don't know if you noticed today, the womanizer thing didn't work. Vladimir Putin thing didn't work. White supremacist didn't work. Racism didn't work. So now they've got the director of psychiatry from Duke University saying he's clinically insane, he's crazy, and he's going to end up killing more people than Mao and Hitler and Stalin combined. And now they're pointing at China saying, okay, well, there you go. That's going to throw us into a recession. What do you say?
I say when we have no industries left and we are entirely dependent on communist China for everything, that'll be a recession without an end. And that's the alternative. I say the Democrats have been too easy and too willing to appease the big Wall Street boys who have been making a fortune selling us out and selling our country out to China. And that's what they're doing now. They're making up these excuses, but really what it's about is the big donors on Wall Street and everywhere else, they don't want to see us stand up to China because they make money any old way but down. So the Democrats are lying again. and they're just making up stories.
Well, they're also saying, Curtis, talking with Curtis Ellis, Policy Director with America First Policies, they're also saying, well, Trump is going to push America into a corner off the world stage because of the G7. He's not getting on board with climate change, and the China deal's just the cherry on the sundae that's going to be our ruination. I don't believe, not to go back too far, but I don't think we're too big to fail is a misnomer here. I think China, it's finally they're up against something they've never been up against before with an American president.
No, that's exactly right, Rick. All the other presidents have just been happy-go-lucky. And let's go along to get along. They haven't had an original thought in their head for 50 years. Now, this whole thing about the global economy requires prosperous and functioning sovereign nations to operate. You got to have functioning and prosperous sovereign nations working together and trading with each other in order to have a global economy. If the whole thing is run by the Chinese Communist Party, it's not going to work. You can call it the global economy, but it's global tyranny. Now, remember, when we were first sold on China 20 years ago, 2000, I remember the fight very well. We were told by Bill Clinton and everybody else, there were a bunch of Republicans on board too, so this was a bipartisan heist that was pulled off on the American people. We were told, hey, let's open up and do trade with China. There's 1.5 billion customers that are going to buy the stuff that we make in America. Yeah. That's what we were told, right? And now they're saying, oh, we can't change the trade with China because we're dependent on everything that they make to sell to us. It went from we're going to sell them everything to we're buying everything from them. And when somebody talks to you about the supply chains, they are yanking your chain. What that means, that's just fancy talk for we moved our factory from South Carolina or North Texas to southern China. And that's all it means.
Yeah, that's. But why? See, the American people, Kurt, that's why I wanted you on. The American people aren't getting that. They're watching CNN or MSNBC or Headline News or some of the regional channels, and it's all about, Trump is going to throw us all into a recession because he's taking it one step too far with China. And I just don't see that happening. I don't see how it could happen.
No, because we have a strong economy here in the country. The fundamentals are strong. People are getting paid more. The wages are up. Unemployment's low. We have natural resources. We have the cheapest energy on earth. With our fracking boom, and I was just down in the Permian Basin, down in West Texas, eastern New Mexico last week. There is just a boom in energy. Energy is cheaper here than anywhere else on the planet. And that makes up for the fact that they may have cheap labor over in Asia, but we have cheap energy. And you can't make nothing without energy, and we have it. So we have it. We have the energy, and we have the motivated people because our people are creative. We don't just sit around and say, give me an order and tell me what to do. We think of new things to do. And, we're kind of antsy. We got ADHD or something, We just can't sit around and do things the same old way all the time. We got to think of a new way to do it. So we've got the smartest people on earth. We got the most motivated people on earth. We have a lot of energy and a lot of cheap energy out of the ground. So we've got everything we need to do what we need to do to stay out of a recession here. It's when, look, I'll be a little bit blunt here. I don't care if some other part of the world goes into a recession as long as we're doing okay in the United States. Now, granted, we need to sell stuff to those other people. We export too, and we're not alone in this deal. But all these people getting so upset about, there's going to be a global recession. The global economy is going to go into a recession. They're just making this stuff up. They've been telling us, the tariffs are going to raise the price of cars and beer and a Coke and a six-pack and this and that. And there is no evidence that has happened. They have been wrong. They read some book somewhere. Somebody told them a long time ago that tariffs are worse than cancer. And they don't understand. Moses brought down the 10 Commandments, and the first one says, thou shalt not kill. But when you're at a war, Moses was the first one to be out there killing people. So, yeah, tariffs may be bad, but sometimes they work, and you need them. We're up against a very determined enemy. Their name is China, the Chinese Communist Party, and they want to wipe us out. They want us to be their colony, and we're not going to let them do it. President Donald J. Trump's not going to let them do it, and we're not going to go into a recession. This is like you were saying. They're trying to get Trump. First it was Russia. Then it was racism. Now it's recession, and now he's going to make a thermonuclear war with China. It's all a bunch of nonsense and hooey.
Curtis Ellis is my guest, policy director with America First Policies. I've known this guy for probably 20 years, and he's always full of passion. He has probably forgotten more about China in the last 15 or 20 minutes than I've ever known. If you have, and I've already got, Curtis, I've got some people that want to talk to you. If you have any questions about China, the tariffs, how it will affect America, now's your chance. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Curtis Ellis and you, next.
They're losing millions and millions of jobs. They're going to other countries. And if I were them, I'd want to make a deal. But in the meantime, the United States is taking in tremendous amounts of billions and billions of dollars.
All right. Then, of course, President Trump talking about the current state of the economy in China. With me is Curtis Ellis. He's the policy director with America First Policies. And every time I get Curtis on, the lines fill up. Today is no different. He will answer your questions. Let's go to David in Salina. David, thank you for waiting. You're on with Curtis Ellis.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Ellis, there's two things I'd love for you to address. One is the idea that recessions do happen, but you don't have to talk yourself into one. You don't have to speak it into existence like you're Alonzo Ball or something. And number two, if you could talk a little bit about the things that China does that aren't tariff-related, the various practices that they use to compete with us that aren't tariffs, and all the ways that they block our products from coming into their country.
Yeah, thank you very much. Look, you're right. There is such a thing as called the business cycle. You go up and down, and you've got the seasons of the year. Sometimes, if you don't go into a recession, you go into a downturn. But you're exactly right about talking yourself into one, because so much of the economy is based on confidence. Do you feel confident about the future? If so, you'll go out and you'll buy that new car, or that new house, or that new washing machine. If you're a businessman, you'll go in and you'll invest some more money, expand your plant, expand your output, because you figure people are going to be buying more. But if you've got these Tokyo Rose types on TV and radio saying the economy is going to somewhere in a handbasket and there's going to be a recession, and everybody starts sitting on their cash and sitting on their money, putting it in a coffee can in the backyard, and you create the recession that everybody's afraid of. So it's really unhelpful to be polite, for these people out there to be predicting recession when all of the signs of the economy are strong. Now, what does China do besides tariffs? Now, on the tariff front, we charge 2.5% tariffs on stuff coming in from China. They charge 25% tariffs on stuff coming from America to China. So they are taxing our goods at 10 times the rate we tax theirs. But besides that, what they're doing is they have these, like the steel industry in China is supported by the government. They don't have to make a profit. What they do is they have to make steel, and then they sell it around the world into America and everywhere else, and they sell it at a price which is less than what it costs to make the steel. And now how can an honest company compete with that? The answer, they can't, and they go out of business. And then China owns that industry. Now, oil and gas drilling equipment is a really good example. That's a big deal down there in Texas and in New Mexico and other places. The couplings that are used, the specialized pipe fittings that are used to hold the drilling pipe together, made by companies, there's a lot of mom and pop companies down there in Houston and whatnot. Well, China has been exporting these couplings, these fittings, these pipe fittings, selling them in the United States at below the cost of the steel that goes into making them. So you know they're doing some fancy book work there, some fancy bookkeeping, and they're all subsidized by the government because they want to drive us out of business. At that point, we will be dependent on China for our oil industry, and that is not a good place to be. In addition, they now have, so they're dumping products below the cost of production. They've got state-subsidized companies competing with us. They steal our technology. They hack into the companies, they hack into our computers, steal the blueprints. And then for all these un-American or American in name-only companies that are so busy and so anxious to invest in China, they get over there, and what happens is the Chinese say to them, well, you've got to take on a Chinese partner, and you've got to give us all your blueprints and all your trade secrets. And these, I don't know, I don't want to call them morons or clowns, but these American businessmen foolishly go ahead and give it to them. And then the Chinese start counterfeiting the goods and drive the Americans out of business. And then, and this isn't last and it certainly isn't least. What China is doing with the opioid crisis is flat out criminal. It's mass murder. All of the fentanyl, which is highly potent synthetic heroin, is made in China. Now, here you have a communist dictatorship that tracks everything that its people do, everything they buy, everything they sell, everything they post on the Internet, every phone call they make. Every time they walk down the street, there's a surveillance camera watching their face, right? But they can't seem to find the people that are making the fentanyl that kills 100,000 Americans a year. They're shipping it over here. And you know how they learned to do this? Because it's what the British did to China over 100 years ago. They had the Opium Wars, and the British purposely sold opium into China to get the people addicted and weakened so they couldn't have an army, and they sucked the money and the life right out of China, and now China's doing it to us. And that's what we're up against, folks. It's not a pretty picture, but luckily we have a president who's willing to stand up. And if we have to sacrifice a little, if there's a little short-term pain, this is a far smaller price than previous generations have paid to defend our country and our future.
Talking with Curtis Ellis, Policy Director with America First Policies. My lines are full, Curtis. Check Bill, see if Curtis can stay one more segment. We'll try to get some more calls in. I know you've been hearing about it all week. Certainly today, Trump talking about China wants to make a deal. Things are going south for him. The Democrats, conversely, are saying, this China deal's the worst thing that we could ever do. We're going to be thrown into a recession. Hopefully, you'll listen to years and years and years worth of experience from Curtis when it comes to that. You have a question about tariffs. You have a question about China, you have a question about, according to the Democrats, the looming recession. Now's your chance. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Your call straight ahead.
Alexa,
WBAP.com.
the WBAP app,
The TuneIn app.
99.5 FM HD2.
And, of course, the legendary 820 AM.
Wherever you want us.
Wherever you want us.
The Democrats for years have been claiming that China should be stood up to. Now Trump is, and we just got to accept the pain that comes with standing up to China. How do you get China to change without creating some pain on them and us? I don't know.
All right, 4:34 the time. Talking with Curtis Ellis, Policy Director with America First Policies. And Curtis has been around a long, long time. Talking China tariffs, trying to throw some facts in with the lamestream media's narrative on the fact that the China tariffs are going to throw us all into a recession. I've got some more calls for you, Curtis. Before I do that, the Democrats are talking about the China tariffs are going to throw farming into a tailspin, and the sky is falling. True? Not true.
Not true. Look, farmers have tough times. They're having a tough time right now. farmers, the price of soybeans has been falling for 6 years. Trying to blame this just on China and the tariffs, wrong. President Trump just made a deal with Japan, a trade deal. Japan's going to buy more of our pork, more of our beef, more of the soybeans that China's not buying. So he's out to help the farmers. A lot of we're getting $100 billion in tariff revenue from China. A lot of that's going to the farmers to help them out to make them whole. Now, the fact of the matter is that farmers know when they put a crop in the ground, they don't know if it's going to rain and they're going to get anything out of the seeds that they just put in the ground. There is no certainty with the farming business. What that means is they play the long game. And the long game here means sweating out China, because if China gets its way and they become the sole customer for our goods and they control the marketing and the purchasing and the exporting of grain on a global scale, the farmers know that's not going to be good for them. And I've spoken with these guys, and they've told me that this is something that needed to be done decades ago, and they are sticking with President Trump because they're sticking with America.
Let's go to Plano, Texas, talk with Robert. Robert, thank you for waiting. You're on with Curtis Ellis.
Hi there. One thing I don't think most people understand about China is we think in terms of election cycles as in 3 to 4 years. They think 50 to 70 years forward. They still have this attitude from, before World War II and World War II, where the British and Japan were basically taking over China. And they've impressed that all on their kids. And those kids, we're now reaping the benefits of it.
Yeah, basically, Curtis, what Robert is saying is that, their mindset is long-term, generational, not election cycles.
That's right, generational and beyond. They remember in 1400, they were the leading power on Earth. China was the richest country on Earth. 1215, right? We're talking now almost 1,000 years ago. Marco Polo went to China because China had the riches. They had the silk. They had the porcelain. They had everything we wanted. And I'll tell you, that Opium War I was talking about in the 1800s, the reason the British waged that war is because China had all the money, and we wanted to get it. The British wanted to get it from them. So the Chinese are looking to restore what they feel is the rightful order of the universe, where they are the top power on Earth. And it's no exaggeration, and they do have a 100-year plan. The Communist Party has its 100-year plan to do that.
That is exactly right. The caller was correct. Robert was right on the money. China is willing to wait it out. However long it takes, a 100-year plan is just that in China. It's a 100-year plan. So when Democrats are coming out saying, oh, my God, Trump's going to get us into World War III, we're going to be in a recession we'll never recover from, we've got to make friends with China. Some of this stuff that Trump has been talking about, specifically today, needed to be done decades and decades ago. Not say this is not an afterthought. This is not something that Trump just came up with after dinner yesterday. This is something that great minds have been thinking about and trying to work out. Curtis, he was saying the mindset for the Chinese is 100 years down the road, not the next election cycle.
Yeah, they've got a 100-year plan to be the leading power on Earth. Now, I say the weak point of this whole thing is the fact that the leader, Xi Jinping, he's president for life, but his life could end tomorrow if the people around him don't like what he's doing. And this Communist Party of China is basically a criminal gang, and they are running these profitable businesses to make themselves rich. And if they feel that the trade policy and this trade war with President Trump is interfering with their business, they may take it out on Xi Jinping. They may take it out on him and say, you're messing with our business. You haven't been playing right. So there's two sides to the sword. They're thinking long term, but because they have this dictatorship with no elections, the dictator is always looking over his shoulder to see if there's somebody sticking a knife in his back.
Let me try to get one more call in here. Our time is short. Robert in Denton. Robert, thank you for waiting.
Thanks for having me on. Got a quick question. I'm a local plumber and also business owner, and within the last 2 weeks, we got a notice at our plumbing supply house that our prices on our water heaters are going up 25% because of the tariff. I'm a 100% Trump supporter and backer and believe in him. I just, hope, that hopefully one day these prices will go back down, or is this going to be the new normal?
All right. Did you get that, Curtis?
I did, and I hope so, too. I hope we get this thing figured out. Now, the people that are making plumbing supplies in China, they can start making them in Mexico, or better yet, start making them in Texas. I just bought myself a new air conditioner, and I was told, look, we have the made in China model. It'll be $625. Or we have another same exact machine, but is made in America, made in the Midwest, and that's going to cost you $1,000, actually about $1,100. And I thought about it. I didn't have to think about it very long. And I said, I'll pay $1,000. I'll pay $500 more to keep my American brothers and sisters working, to honor my word and to do as I say. So now I understand and I hear you. I hear you, brother. And there might be a little pain, but go down, look at Normandy Beach, look at Arlington Cemetery. The price we're being asked to pay to defend our way of life, we are being asked to make a sacrifice here and there, but it's a very small sacrifice compared to what's happened before. I am not being overly dramatic here. This is what is at stake, and we've just let this go far too long. There is no reason those plumbing supplies can't be made here. It's not your fault that they aren't made here. Somebody else decided they can make a quick buck, a fast buck, and a bigger buck by supporting a communist regime in China and making it over there with slave labor. It's just not right. We got to get this right, and we got to do it now, because the longer we wait, the stronger China gets and the weaker we get. Our economy's in good shape now. We can afford to pay a little more, and I hope everybody feels the same way, that it's worth paying a little more to have a country.
Curtis Ellis has been my guest. He is the policy director with America First Policies. Curtis, if people want to get more information, especially some of your writings, I like that one where you talked about the Democrats colluding with China. They were talking about Trump colluding with Russia. When they were colluding with China, how do they go about getting in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Curtis W. Ellis, but you can find me at America First Policies, America Pol, or America and Policies, America First Policies on Twitter. I don't know what the handle is, but I've got a column that comes out on American Greatness. That's amgreatness.com. I got a good one coming out on Wednesday. Tomorrow night it'll be up, about this new movie called American Factory, and it's about what happened when China took over an American auto glass factory in Ohio. It's not a pretty picture. And amgreatness.com, you can find, I write there every week. I got something new up. Curtis, it's always a pleasure. Good to talk to you again, my friend. Good to talk with you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for reaching out, Rick. All right, 4:44 the time. We'll step aside very quickly. And back, it's all about, it all goes back to Buy American, right? Except for those unscrupulous employers that want to turn a quick buck supporting a communist regime.